Reppins are some of the most hyped adjustable dumbbells of all time. They promised to take my personal favorite adjustable dumbbells, the Pepins, and introduce manufacturing that drops the price. But did it drop too low? Watch out! Let's find out. Hey guys, this is Coop from Garage Gym Reviews, and today we are reviewing one of the most exciting releases for some time. Yes, these are the Rep times Pepin Fast Series adjustable dumbbells, also known lovingly by everybody in the world other than Rep, the Reppins. Now I'm gonna jump right in. If this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe. If you have any interest in lifting in your home at all, or would like to see any other adjustable dumbbell reviews, we've reviewed most of them. If you'd like to see specific ones on these in comparison to others, let me know in the comments. But this is how I'm gonna lay out the video. First, I'm gonna go through the design and build quality. Then I'm gonna go into the performance of them and how they actually feel when you're using them. Then I'm gonna do a drop test so you can see them live on screen, live, in person, what they look like if they're dropped from multiple heights. And then we're also gonna do comparisons to the Pepins, which I actually have right behind me, the originals, as well as other adjustable dumbbells on there, and then just give my real take. I will say there's an expectation because I love the Pepins that I'll love these, and there are a lot of things I do love about these, but I will say I do have some specific critiques that honestly I wasn't expecting. But let's get into the review. Okay, so first off, these are based on the best, in my opinion, adjustable dumbbell in the world, the Pepins, which are a handmade in Canada dumbbell that is egregiously expensive. As you can expect, they're gonna make it so it's affordable for the masses and actually improve some things. So actually when we were out in Germany, we visited their booth. I was able to lift with the prototype. I really liked them, and now we have the real ones in hand. The design itself is kind of a hybrid between older adjustable dumbbells and more modern adjustable dumbbells. What I mean by that is it doesn't have a full cage, kind of like a power block, a dumbbell that's been around for a long time and is actually one of the most popular of all time. A very durable dumbbell that has a full cage, and honestly one of the reasons that people now avoid it. But it's also not like the most modern dumbbell like the Dumbbells or the Snows of the world that change with the handle or have like a little ring for a change. They're kind of in between in that they have a cage, really 2 bars on each side, nothing on the bottom or top, but then adjust with a slide rod. So it's kind of an in-between. In a perfect world, there would be nothing on the outside of the dumbbell, but this is an adjustable dumbbell that needs rigidity and needs strength. And so the other ways that are being done today, they lack in strength. I'm thinking like Dumbbells, they're known to be somewhat fragile, but then you also have the power blocks, which have more durability, but also have a bigger cage. These kind of fit in between. Now, one of the things that's most interesting, I think, on these for most people is they design them to be heavy. And not just heavy, but they actually improved them from the Pepins in that they have a lighter start weight too. So the max weight is 120 pounds. Plus if you add the 2.5 pound micro weights onto the dumbbells, they can go a max of 125 pounds. Honestly, one of the heaviest adjustable dumbbells that isn't cartoonish. This is really, I think, a good weight for an adjustable dumbbell. Not gonna be maxed out by most users, but it's gonna give you the opportunity, if you wanna use them for more compound movements like deadlifts and things like that, you can do that. Now, they made a decision on this. Instead of just coming out with one size and having a specific cradle for that one size, which was a critique I had of the Pepins, which was like, basically, why don't you come out with a cradle that expands and changes? Well, this now has that. This has a cradle that does change, so you can go from an 85 pound, which is their start weight, all the way up to 125 pounds. This is actually a big benefit. This allows you, whether your strength increases or whether your pocketbook increases, you can basically buy more over time, which is a huge benefit. And you just have to buy the weights. You don't have to buy new cradles, throw the old cradles away and pay for new ones. You can use the same cradle and it quickly adjusts using a hex key if you want to change between them. Now, I will say the cradle itself is a crucial design. Seems like it's somewhat unimportant, but the reality is if you have these and use these regularly, literally you will use the cradle and smash up to a 120 pound dumbbell on the cradle thousands of times in the lifetime of the dumbbells. This one is actually fully steel. So it's using the same material that the head plates are using. It's using the same material that the Pepins are using. It's a steel cradle that does adjust in length, so you can adjust for the different weight increments that you have. But it's also one that has UHMW plastic, so there's no like marring or scarring from the cradle to the dumbbell, and it's just really easy to place. There is like some adjustment that you can make. So I would say when you first get them, one thing I noticed when we first got them and I placed them in, like there was just a little bit more movement than I'd like. but they made the holes where the bolts will go just a little bit larger so you can micro adjust them to fit your exact pair of dumbbells. So I'd suggest just playing with that a little bit over time and then really cranking them down so they stay there, and once they're there, they shouldn't move. They made it so that it can eventually fit into their own stands, which is nice. It has UHMW and protection on both the bottom and the top, where the cradle rests on something, but also where the dumbbell rests on the cradle. It's just a nice addition, and actually is in some way an improvement over the actual Pepin cradle. Instead of stickers, thank the Lord, they got rid of stickers completely. So the badge they actually use in the middle of the cradle has the Rep times Pepin, which is just a cool collaboration and logo in stainless steel, so you see it and smile every time you use it. Now, one important feature of an adjustable dumbbell, and I think one reason people love fixed dumbbells and will sometimes use them over an adjustable dumbbell, even a home gym, is how compact fixed dumbbells often are at heavier weights. Some adjustable dumbbell companies will overcome this by making the diameter of the heads larger. TrueLap is an example of this, but then it gets in the way of ROMs. There's like a middle ground. You don't want to have such a big diameter of head that it gets in the way of you getting full ROM in, say, presses and rows. But also, you don't want the head so small so then the dumbbell is comically long at the heavier weights. I think they struck it at a good size. It's a 7-inch diameter, but because they're using CNC'd steel plates, they can stack just a ton of this weight on there, and it still is more compact than many competitors. For example, at 85 pounds, which is like its lowest weight that you can purchase it at, it's 14.5 inches long. If you compare that to Dumbbells, whose max weight is 80 pounds, so technically 5 pounds heavier than that, Dumbbells are around 17 inches at their max length. Then you compare them to Iron Masters. So you take these at 125 pounds, you take Iron Masters at 120 pounds with their add-on kit. These are gonna be 18.3 inches, so just slide over 18 inches. And then Iron Masters are actually 19 inches. So these are both more compact than Iron Masters at their max weight, more compact than Dumbbells. There's just like, even if you compare these to Dumbbells, these can go way heavier and are only a little bit longer, like 40 plus pounds than what Dumbbells are. Now, a lot of that comes to the fact that they're using more expensive materials. Instead of using a lot of plastic and then also using cast iron, they're using CNC'd steel. It's an expensive process, but one way that they're able to do that is by using a dovetail to connect them together. And so they're using a Cerakoted dovetail that's very similar to what they use on the Pepins. I don't know if they did this on purpose so that they couldn't connect and you couldn't use, say, the Fast Series kettlebell handle on the Reppins, which I tried. You cannot. They're slightly different. There's enough different that you can't attach them together. So if for some reason you want to use something that Pepin's going to make for their Fast Series, just know there's not like compatibility between them. That may or may not matter. Hopefully, they'll collaborate on the Fast Series handle too, and they'll make a kettlebell handle for this as well. That'd be pretty sweet. Or think about like a barbell that connects into these for like a curl bar or something. That'd be kind of cool too. So we'll see if they build out that ecosystem over time. Just know if there's anything from Pepin, you probably just want to go with the Pepins because that'll work for those. The dumbbell is technically a dodecagon. Do you know what a dodecagon is? That basically means it has 12 sides. I counted them. Basically, they wanted to make this, my guess, is as round as possible with having some flatness to it so that it wouldn't roll. The roundness is really more aesthetic, so it looks more like a pro style fixed dumbbell. I will say just aesthetically, I think these things look sick. Part of it is like the differences between the different materials. So you can see the like more textured powder coat against like the aluminum that's used for the handle head, with the Cerakote, with the laser etching, the nickel handle, all those sort of things. It just adds up to kind of a cool look. But part of that is just the design decision to make them so they can't roll. I like that addition. I personally prefer hexagons, but if you're gonna go with a dodecagon, I guess that's okay. Then to the handle, which I think is the most significant change from the original Pepins. There's a lot of similarities between the handles on these and the Pepins, and that's a good thing, but there are some differences too. Number one is they're using, and this is a really good decision, I think, they're using aluminum for the head plate instead of steel. The reason that matters is it's got a much lighter start weight. In fact, it's half. 50% less start weight than the Pepins. So instead of starting at 20 pounds, they start at 10 pounds. That is a big deal for a lot of people. For me, for instance, I'm not doing a ton of movements that are less than 20 pounds, maybe some lateral raises or maybe like some therapy stuff. But generally, I get along just fine with a 20-pound start weight. But my wife also uses the dumbbells, and my kids will eventually use the dumbbells. So having one set that can work for a wider amount of people without taking off the top end is It's great. The only potential negative is it may be a little bit less durable because aluminum is a softer material than steel, but in use and dropping, I don't think that's gonna matter at all for anybody. So generally speaking, I think it's a great decision. Now, another major change that you can both see aesthetically, but also in use is the change for the plating for the side rails. So rather than being nickel plated, these are Cerakoted and then laser etched. We'll see how that fares over time. Generally, Cerakote is a very long-lasting material. We see it with barbells all the time. I will say, from just a high-vis standpoint, just the ability to quickly see the numbers is great. On the Pepins, they basically laser etch them, but it still looks like a very similar color to what the background is, so it's not super easy to tell what it is. Like, you can tell, but it's just not obvious. This one, they made the decision to make it contrast. And I really like that decision. I do have a little bit of a critique. And one thing that they say on their site is no compromises. These dumbbells were made to have no compromises. I do think there's a compromise made, and that's specifically on the side rails. I'm pretty sure to save money on manufacturing, they made one side rail and they put it on one side and then put the other on the other side. That sounds like it wouldn't really matter, but the reason that will matter is because the weight increments are shown towards you on the right side, and then on the left side are actually upside down. They're away from you. And you're like, well, that doesn't really matter, except you have to adjust the sliders on both sides. So really, you need to be able to see the weight increments on both sides. I could see somebody arguing like, oh, this is actually a benefit because you can put the handle in upside down or whichever way you want, no matter what, but I disagree. I would prefer the numbers to be facing me on both sides. This to me seems like a way to save on manufacturing, which if it saves a lot of money and then they can pass that to consumers, probably a good decision. Now the slide mechanism itself feels very similar to Pepin's. It's maybe a little bit louder, but not very much at all. I'm pretty sure it uses the same components. This was one of the best parts of the Pepins. You actually want to change the weight because it's so quick and actually like it feels good, it sounds good, just the whole experience is really nice. And I feel like they've copied that generally over to the Reppins. It feels very similar with a spring-loaded magnetic pin that pops in and out. It's very easy to find the weight increment that you're on and then to know that it's in there, it's solid, gives you the audible sound so you know it's locked in. I mean, I'm really glad they added that from Pepin because that's one of the best features in my opinion, and they did it really well on the Reppins. The handle is very similar. It's 34 millimeters instead of 34.5 millimeters on the Pepins. Honestly, in use, you can't really even tell. I will say the knurling on the Pepins is the best of any adjustable dumbbell I've ever used, and that's still the case. I do think the knurling, it's a little bit more aggressive than what is on the new Reppins, but the knurling on the Reppins is still very good. It's a volcano knurling. It's not quite as aggressive as Pepin. That may have been like a design decision just so they could appeal to a wider market, because I will say there's probably some people that would use the Pepins and say it's a little too aggressive, people without calluses like me. I'm a callus elitist. But the coating for the handle is the same for these and for the Pepins, and that is nickel. I actually really like the decision because nickel just, it just feels so good. It lasts a long time. It doesn't rust. It looks really good. I think it's a great decision. So Rep, great decision in taking it over from Pepin. Then the micro plates. So this is one of my biggest critiques. With the Pepins, it felt like they designed a dumbbell in 10-pound increments and they're like, how can we add smaller increments? I know, let's add these micro plates on, and I'm pretty sure they actually redesigned the dumbbell so then you could add micro plates, and then they added them on with like this spring pop pin that had a key ring on it. Well, instead of redesigning that idea for the Reppins, they just kept it. It's pretty much the exact same. The reason that it's not great is it's something that's not integrated. Anytime something's not integrated, it's annoying, and you actually see Rep will redesign things when it's not integrated. An example of this is the micro plates that they've had for the Eris. Well, the Eris 2.0 had the integrated drop-down micro plate. It's a much better experience. So on an adjustable dumbbell, how do you do that? Well, one way that you could do that is make it so the 2.5 plates are permanently in the cradle, and so when you drop the dumbbell into the cradle, you're dropping them into the 2.5 plates, and maybe there's some mechanism that allows you to attach to the dumbbell when you want to use it. That way you don't have to undo it, pop it up, and then set it somewhere else. So again, like these are minor critiques, but like this is a dumbbell that is poised and discussed as, even in their own marketing, as the best adjustable dumbbell of all time. If they ever do a 2.0, which I don't know if they will, I'm sure eventually they will, that is something that I would love to see improved, because that is the worst, in my opinion, experience of this. But still, in use, it's very good. Once you get them in there, it works fine. Actually, if you're bougie like me and want a little bit of an upgrade, these are actually a stainless knurled pop pin that I found on Alibaba. So if you would like to see these, because they're actually really nice, you can fix them out or keep them in. They're very cheap. They're stainless and knurled. Oh my goodness. They're very nice. They do pop out a little bit further than a key ring, which is why I think they went with the key ring. It is a stainless key ring. It's okay. But if you just want to take it a little bit further, let me know in the comments and maybe I can just send you a link to these. They're actually really cheap. Now I will say one thing on the microplates. The microplates on the Reppins have tighter tolerances than the Pepins. The Pepins move around a little bit more on the microplates. They're tighter on the Reppins. So good job on that part. So then to performance, like how does it actually feel in use? Like does all this add up to actually a better dumbbell than what you'd use for an adjustable dumbbell? Well, most other adjustable dumbbells, yes. I would much rather use this than a Nuabell. They're gonna be more durable. Also, they go heavier. The knurling's better. In use, they feel fantastic. So one of the benefits to having them so compact is they feel more like a fixed dumbbell. In fact, when you compare them to a lot of fixed dumbbells, they aren't that much bigger and sometimes are actually smaller. So it's like you have that benefit going for you. So when you're doing them on press and things like that, they feel just very compact and you can get a really good stretch without the heads hitting your shoulders. Also, the bottom of the plate, the dovetail is flat, so you can rest that on your quads before you go back to press. Works great on that point. For dynamic movements, I will say there's a little bit looser tolerance than what Pepin has on the Fast Series. So the Reppins have a little bit, they're just a little bit more like, I don't know, there's just a little bit more movement between them. It's not enough to like be a big deal, but it is worth calling out. I hear this all the time from CrossFitters, like I don't like adjustable dumbbells because when I do snatches, clean and jerks and things like that with dumbbells, they move around a ton. Well, these also move around some too. So if you're doing a ton of dynamic movements, you may just want to go with fixed dumbbells, but for generally every other use case, man, they feel fantastic. Also, you can change these without the cradle. So if you want to do a quick drop set and you just want to like place them on the ground, change them real quick to a lower weight and then pull them up, you can do that no problem. One thing that is not as easy to do is make the weight higher. So if you put them down, adjust them, lift them up, the plates are standing there. Sometimes they can fall over or whatever. It's just not as easy as adding weight on. So you really want to add weight on when they're on the cradle, but if you want to drop weight off for things like drop sets, it works just fine if they're just sitting on the ground, which is a cool feature that a lot of dumbbells can't do. Now, two movements people often ask about with adjustable dumbbells, especially ones that have sidebars or like a cage, are French press and then goblet squats. For both of them, goblet squats are perfectly fine. You can do them no problem. You can hold under the dumbbell, or if you want to hold the side rails, you can do that too. Also, French press, same thing. So actually, I like the side rails. You can hold them and then use them for things like French press. You can do the same thing with the side rails on these, or you can just hold the top of the dumbbell, no problem. Now, before we do a drop test, I just want to like detail the exact differences you're going to be looking at between the Reppins and Pepins. The Reppins have a lower start weight thanks to aluminum head plate. That's a huge benefit. Next, I think the Reppins actually have a better cradle because it adjusts and you can upgrade over time. And again, another benefit. Third, the Cerakote on the side rails, I actually like better than the nickel on the Pepins. And the reason is it's higher vis. On the downside of that, the numbers on the Pepins are facing you on both rails, whereas on the Reppins, one's facing away from you and one's facing towards you. A little bit of an annoyance, but obviously not a deal breaker. The Reppins do generally have looser tolerances, except for the micro plates. So they move around a little bit more. Like it's not like a huge difference, but it is worth calling out because, I mean, part of it, the handmade nature of the Pepins is they dial them in. So they're just extremely tight tolerances. These are more mass manufactured from Rep. Makes sense, so you can get the price down, and they're still very tight tolerances compared to many adjustable dumbbells, but they're still less than the Pepins. The knurling on the Reppins is a little bit less aggressive. That may not matter to you, and the diameter is a little bit smaller. Then I'd also say there's a little bit more UHMW plastic, it seems like, on the Reppins. Not a ton, I mean, the Pepins were already protected all over anyways, but it seems like everywhere on the Reppins, including the bottom of the cradle, has protection for whatever surface it's gonna be on. And then this is the biggest one, price. Price on these is so vastly different Like if you're looking at these two, I'll give you my take here in a moment after the drop test, but I mean, there's a reason you should mostly be looking at the Reppins, and that's because of price. Okay, let's take them off and let's drop them. The way that we're gonna do this is I'm gonna start with a lower weight, just the handle, and drop it. I don't think you need to figure out if you can drop them from the top of the squat rack, which we've done at times for fun. Really what matters is in use dropping, and that's from like basically bailing on it on a press or things like that. The thing is, most adjustable dumbbells, when they drop test them, they test them like this, flat. Anytime we've done a drop test, most of the time if you drop them that way, most adjustable dumbbells don't break. There's probably some that do, but generally, when they're gonna break is when they're on the edge, right here. That's the part that's gonna most lead to breaking. So we're gonna test them like that both ways. So let's start with the handle. We'll just drop it. I'd be really surprised if this broke. I will say, this is the most vulnerable part for some dumbbells, say Dumbbells. I would not trust dropping Dumbbells like this. But these, as you can see, it's just solid. I mean, you can even see it, just this CNC'd aluminum. Very sweet, so normal dropping, and then we can just do some of this. Oh! Well, good. Hit my 100-pound kettlebell or so, but they're fine. Okay, now let's do a little bit higher weight. Let's go 50 pounds. 50 pounds from hip height, which is about probably where you'd be if you were dropping them maybe from a bench press or something. We can go a little bit higher too. So one thing that's happened a few times is this pops out. Obviously that will only happen if you drop it suddenly, but you can put it back in. Okay, now let's drop them on the edge. Again, this is the part that matters the most. That's the thing with the cage, it's providing way more rigidity than a dumbbell that doesn't have a cage. So you're not just experiencing the force on the handle, you're also dissipating the force between the side rails, which are very thick steel. So it's like, it should in theory hold up. Okay, one for fun. Oh, hate when that happens. Got our first major scratch. Sorry, Bubba. And then just for funsies, we must go to 120 pounds. Okay. You see how easy that was to lift up? My goodness. Man, I'm kind of nervous to drop them on the angle side. For science. For America. Beautiful. So, if you're wondering about durability, don't do that with nearly any other adjustable dumbbell. But with these, you can. Okay, so ultimately, should you get these versus all the others? Did they live up to the hype? In my opinion, definitely. They lived up to the hype. They absolutely killed it with these. These are pretty much what we'd expect. I will say, it was very annoying for most people, the pre-order system, and then the pre-orders getting extended out, and some people paying more, but then they gave them a little bit of a credit. You know, it's all that kind of stuff. Like, very annoying, I understand that, but now that they're in hand, I'm glad they waited to really dial it in. They did a fantastic job. These things are amazing. Like, am I gonna replace my Pepins? Probably not. They're so similar. Really, I thought about it though, because the 10-pound start weight is a lot better, but the competitors for these generally are not the Pepins. They're everybody else. So if you compare these to the Dumbbells, for instance, which is one of like our top picks, these blow them away. Like without a doubt. Iron Masters. These are super durable dumbbell, very similar to Iron Master, but quicker changing, better material. I mean, it's just like, and the cost, like, they're a little bit more than some other adjustable dumbbells, but not like vastly different. Without a doubt, these are the best adjustable dumbbells for vast majority of you. If you want a lighter start weight, just go with the 85 pounds and have them cheaper, and over time you can upgrade to them. But sometimes there's like this expectation for how things will be, and then you get it in person, and it's like, man, it didn't live up to the hype or expectations at all. These did though. You did a fantastic job. These are killer. If you want to get them, you can check them out, the link below, the like button. I highly recommend them. They are the adjustable dumbbell to beat at this point. All right, let me know what you think of them, any comparisons you'd like to see me do between them and others in the comments. This has been Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. I'll see you next time. Peace.